The 2021 NFL Draft running back class might be a bit top-heavy, but that doesn't mean there isn't talent to be had. At the top, there's Travis Etienne and Najee Harris. What does Travis Etienne do well? Well, pretty much everything. The Clemson product ran a 4.43 40 in high school, so the speed box has been long checked. Not only did he average an absurd 7.2 yards per carry over 4 years, he rapidly improved as a pass catcher out of the backfield, a trait that will serve him well at the next level. As for Harris, the NorCal native did everything for the national champion Crimson Tide as a senior, including an astounding 30 house calls.
Wide open left side. Najee out of the backfield, makes the grab at the 10, cuts inside the defense. He'll fire forward. He's got a touchdown.
He's extremely physical as a runner and, like Etienne, also vastly improved as a pass catcher. As for the rest of the list, there's former North Carolina backfield duo of Michael Carter and JAVONTE Williams. If you're unfamiliar with their work, the tape against Miami will help explain the interest. TREY had a tremendous finish to the season before his injury early in the national championship game. Jaret Patterson was a touchdown machine for Buffalo in only 6 games. And Kenneth Gainwell did it all for Memphis in 2019 before opting out of the 2020 season. Regardless of when the names do get called, dreams will become a reality beginning April 29th at the NFL Draft.
So last year we saw just one running back go in the first round. That would be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and it was at the very bottom. This year we're looking at potentially 2, and it depends on our staff who you ask whether it is Travis Etienne, according to Pete Prisco, or Najee Harris, according to Ryan Wilson. But we're going to talk about each of those guys. Also find you a sleeper. Let's bring in Ryan Wilson and Emory Hunt. Guys, we're talking about running backs, and this is a lot of fun because they're 2 outstanding running backs. Ryan, I want to start with you and Travis Etienne. Can you talk yourself into him being the best out of these 2?
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty close. So you mentioned 2 running backs as possible first rounders. There's some buzz for Javonte Williams actually sneaking into the first round as well out of UNC. So things get really interesting. I can't imagine 3 running backs actually go in round 1. But if one of those 3 went, I don't think it would be a huge surprise. We had that same conversation last year when Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the one that actually snuck in. But as far as Travis Etienne, had his pro day yesterday, ran a 4.4 unofficially. So again, we still know he's fast. We heard Joe Musso talk about how fast he was in high school. That showed up on tape. Sometimes you run fast in a straight line in short, so you don't see that necessarily on the field. That wasn't the issue with Travis Etienne. He came back for the 2020 season. Could have certainly come out in 2019 and been a high round draft pick to help his football team. He said he didn't regret it, and I think it was the right decision for him as well. But he's explosive. He's low center of gravity, built low to the ground, huge legs. He can run over guys. He can turn the corner. He can help you in the pass game. There's not much to not like about what Travis Etienne does. And if he went before Najee Harris, I could certainly understand it. I just like Najee Harris a smidge more.
Yeah, I like Najee Harris a smidge more, but you can always sell me on explosiveness and home run hitting ability. Anytime you have the speed to take the distance, you're just as good as a long pass play. So you can just turn around and hand it off to a guy like Travis Etienne. And we got to see him work on his receiving skills going back to Clemson. And I think that's where he improved his stock. But you're talking about explosive speed, functional speed, game speed. You can always sell me on those guys.
Well, Najee Harris absolutely improved his stock this past season here with Alabama. And both of you say you like him just a smidge more. So, Emory, let's start with you. Why is that?
Well, I think he can do it all from a pass pro perspective, from a vision perspective, from a consistency perspective. I've gone the whole gambit on Najee Harris. At first, it was Steven Jackson. Then I saw Deuce McAllister. Now I'm seeing Le'Veon Bell. He can do it all. All 3 terrific backs. You're talking about NFL backs, and he fits the mold. And he has been someone that I followed since high school, and his game has been as consistent. So we finally got to see it play all out this year. Utilize him in the passing game out wide more than your standard tailback route. So he can go deep down the field and be an asset. And I think when you can play on all 3 downs, you make yourself that much more valuable as a pro prospect.
Yeah, I don't think anyone made themselves more money than Najee Harris in terms of coming back for 1 more year to Alabama. We could talk about whether Travis Etienne did himself any favors. I think he was wise to come back, but he certainly didn't improve his draft stock to the point that Najee Harris did. Najee Harris is probably going to be an early day 3 guy. Now he's a legit round 1 guy. And we heard Emory talk about all the things he does well. If there's one knock on him, it's that he probably is not going to run a 4.3. In fact, I'm pretty sure he won't. I don't care. I don't care if he runs a 4.65, to be honest with you. He doesn't play slow. People can't tackle him. him. He gets into space and he's running away from people. He's really good in the pass game, as Emory noted, and he can block. He does it all. You talk about all the success Mac Jones had with all the guys he could throw the ball to. Handing the ball up to Najee Harris helped Mac Jones as well. And I think wherever Najee ends up next season, he's certainly going to help that program. And as a Steelers homer, I would be certainly fine with him going 24th to Pittsburgh.
All right, just your own personal preference. I think they heard you. Ryan, we'll start with you here on the sleepers when it comes to running back, because we started with Emory on the quarterbacks here. So who are some sleeper running backs you are keeping your eye on for the draft?
I'm going to go with Kenneth Gainwell out of Memphis, who also played with in 2019 Antonio Gibson, who ended up being a draft pick on day 2 for a football team. And they're similar in styles, but they're different in their physiques. 228, that's how much that Antonio Gibson weighs. 5'11", 195 is what Gainwell gives you. He opted out in 2020, but he is as good a pass catcher, probably better than he is a running back. You get him in space, and he is an absolute nightmare. He reminds me a little bit of what we see in Demetric Felton out of UCLA, who was a running back there, went to the Senior Bowl. They had him work out solely as a wide receiver, and I think that versatility is what makes Gainwell attractive to teams that are looking for, as Pete Prisco calls them, airbacks, the Alvin Kamars and the Christian McCaffreys of the world. He's not at that level, but he's probably going to be a day 2 guy. And that versatility, being able to run the ball and also being a threat out of the backfield to go to the house, is what's going to make him end up being drafted much higher than some folks might expect.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the great state of Louisiana, number 1, and look at UL Monroe's running back, Josh Johnson. He was fantastic last year. You go back and watch his game against Florida State. He lit up the Seminoles. This year, we know UL Monroe had their issues all throughout the offseason and during the season with COVID, so the numbers weren't what we expected them to be. But Josh Johnson is outstanding. Great contact balance, good burst. He may not have the long speed to rip off those 60-yard runs, but he can pick up yards in chunks and be a good foundational back. I would also throw out there Shane Simpson from Virginia, a guy that was at Towson as an FCS player, was a special teams player of the year. He can return kicks and punts. He's blazing fast and can also line up in a slot and play wide receiver if you need him to. Transfer to Virginia this year, where he excelled later in the season at running back and had a really good game against North Carolina.
Emory, I'm absolutely stunned that you picked somebody out of Alabama. All right, Ryan and Emory, thanks so much. And again, check out Ryan's latest mock draft there on CBSSports.com. We are far from done talking about positions, looking ahead to the NFL draft now around the corner. Coming up next, we're going to talk wide receivers. You got one guy who opted out last season, 2 guys from Alabama. Also, what about a sleeper to keep an eye on?
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.